My sister was always a golden child. She had the looks, the grades, the charm, and the ability to bend everyone around her little finger without even trying. Meanwhile, I was the afterthought, the awkward one, the one who didn't get invited to brunches with Mom and her friends because I didn't present myself well. I wasn't jealous. At least, I told myself I wasn't. It's hard to envy someone when you're too busy surviving in the shadows of their spotlight. But everything changed the day she announced her engagement. The family erupted in joy, like the second coming had just been scheduled for next spring. Our parents immediately began pouring tens of thousands into the event, booking a vineyard estate, hiring a celebrity-tier wedding planner, and commissioning an orchestral quartet for the ceremony. She was their perfect little doll, and this wedding was their perfect little stage play. Meanwhile, I was told, quite literally, to stay out of the way and try not to ruin anything. I'd just gotten back from working 14-hour shifts to keep my apartment after a layoff. But that didn't matter. You looked tired. My mother said with a frown, like fatigue was contagious, and I should have quarantined it. You're not going to wear that to the engagement party, are you? I hadn't even been told there was one. That's when it began, the unraveling. See, what no one knew was that I had overheard something. Not by choice, not because I was nosy, but because I'd shown up at our parent house unannounced to borrow a wrench, and I caught my sister on speakerphone with her fiancé, Matt, talking about me. She was laughing, this airy, cruel laugh I hadn't heard since we were kids, and she told the neighbors I peed the bed. She's such a charity case, she said. I hope she doesn't bring that weird thrift store vibe to the wedding. Maybe we can just seat her behind a pillar or something. Then Matt chuckled and said, yeah, or next to the kitchen. I stood there, wrench in hand, my stomach twisting in a way I couldn't untangle. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat in my car outside their house, staring at the porch light, like it was some kind of lighthouse trying to guide me to a version of home I'd never find. The next few weeks were a blur of appointments, fittings, and plans, none of which I was included in. I was sent a text about the bachelorette party, only to be told later it was a mistake and I wouldn't vibe with crowd. My only official role? To help carry boxes a day before the wedding. And even that came with side eyes and passive-aggressive remarks like, just don't drop anything this time. But here's the thing. I wasn't just sitting on my hands while they planned their Hallmark movie. I started noticing things. Little things. Matt was way too flirty with one of the bridesmaids, who just happened to be his ex. He accidentally liked photos of random women on social media while on the call with my sister. There were receipts, DMs, and messages from a burner Snapchat account. I was building a mosaic, piece by piece, and the picture was ugly. But the moment that sealed it for me, the moment that drew a line in the sand, was when my sister sat me down for coffee a week before the wedding. I thought, for a fleeting moment, that maybe she wanted to reconnect. That maybe, buried beneath the layers of perfection and pride, she still saw me as her sister. But no. She ordered her latte with oat milk, looked me square in the eye, and said, please don't do anything embarrassing, like cry during the vows or wear something that makes you look like an art teacher. I'm serious. My mouth fell open, but she didn't even notice. She was too busy scrolling Instagram and talking about how the chairs had finally arrived from France. This is the most important day of my life, she added. Try not to make it about you. That was it. I smiled. I smiled so hard my jaw hurt, and I nodded, of course, wouldn't dream of it. Because at that moment I decided something. I wasn't going to ruin her wedding, not in the way she feared. I wasn't going to scream or throw a drink or show up in costume. No, I was going to tell the truth. All of it, loudly, publicly, and in a way that not even she could Photoshop out of the family album. I started rehearsing my speech. Not a toast, mind you, a confession, a reckoning. The kind of story that starts as a whisper in the crowd and ends with silence, so thick you could choke on it. I gathered screenshots, timelines, dates, even screenshots of Matt's creepy messages to other women. And the whole time, I kept smiling. I helped decorate the reception hall. I helped tie bows on the chairs. I even offered to pick up her veil from a boutique when she couldn't find time. And all the while, I kept my folder, yes, an actual folder, in my glove compartment, hidden in plain sight. On the night before the wedding, I slept like a baby. It was a calm before the storm, and I knew exactly how hard the thunder was going to hit. Not everyone would thank me. Some would hate me forever. But that was fine. I wasn't doing it for them. I was doing it for every overlooked sibling, every scapegoated child, every person told to dim their light, so someone else could shine. And so, as the sun rose on the perfect day and the first champagne bottles were popped, I zipped up the navy dress they'd assigned me, the one that was slimming, so she won't stand out too much, and walked into fire. They thought I was the black sheep, but black sheep bite back. And this time, I wasn't staying quiet. It started with the save-the-date cards, lavishly printed on pearlescent cardstock with gold foil accents, and a smiling photo of my sister and Matt, her soon-to-be husband, wrapped in each other's arms on a beach in Tulum, both grinning like models on a honeymoon brochure. Everyone in the family gushed over how gorgeous they looked, how perfectly matched they seemed, how this was finally her fairy tale. I got mine 2 weeks late, shoved into the mailbox without even a handwritten note. That was the first warning sign I brushed off. The second came when our mother posted an entire Facebook album titled, "The Wedding Journey Begins Ring Sparkles," that included candid photos from the bridal boutique, the dress reveal, the venue scouting, and all the wine tastings. Not one included me. I wasn't invited to any of it. My name wasn't mentioned once. In fact, it was like I didn't exist at all. My mother's captions were glowing and syrupy. So proud of our beautiful bride-to-be, and only the best for our princess. Meanwhile, I watched in silence, hidden in plain sight. I was invited to a single pre-wedding event, a planning brunch held at an upscale garden cafe, and even that came with strings attached. I was told to not wear anything distracting, to avoid bringing up sad stuff, and to let the bride lead. The brunch was a minefield. My sister was decked out in a designer sundress and designer sunglasses, basking in compliments from her bridesmaids, most of whom were old sorority friends who looked at me like I was an intern who wandered into the wrong room. Every time I tried to speak, someone interrupted. When I asked about the seating chart, my sister laughed and said, "Don't worry, we got the miscellaneous section handled," then winked. They laughed. I didn't. I left early, making up a fake excuse about needing to feed my cat. I don't own a cat. But what bothered me most wasn't the rudeness. It was the forced perfection of it all. Everything was too polished, too orchestrated. My sister was playing a role, one she had scripted for herself long ago. She wasn't planning a wedding. She was producing a prestige television miniseries called The Bride. And Matt was a supporting lead. At first, he seemed like the ideal groom. Charming, attentive, helpful. He carried her bags, laughed at her jokes, and complimented her friends on their aura. But something about him didn't sit right. He looked everyone in the eyes, except when he didn't. He laughed too loudly at dumb jokes, and when no one was looking, he stared a little too long at the bridesmaids in low-cut dresses. I caught him once, lingering behind one of the bridesmaids, Allison, tall, tan, and blonde, his eyes tracing her in a way no soon-to-be groom should. She noticed, too. When our eyes met, she gave me a tight smile and walked away. I didn't say anything. I should have, but I didn't. Because what was I going to do? Be the bitter sister who accuses a groom of ogling someone just weeks before the wedding? That would go over real well with the bridal squad. So I watched and waited. Things began to escalate when I accidentally overheard Matt arguing with someone on the phone outside the rehearsal dinner venue. He was pacing, talking in a harsh whisper, saying things like, "No, I told you this is temporary," and "You said you understood," and finally, "Don't contact me again until after the wedding." I was standing near the valet station, completely hidden in the shadows, waiting for my ride because, surprise, I wasn't offered one back with the others. When he turned and spotted me, he froze for half a second before giving me a fake smile. "Phone reception sucks here," he said, and walked inside. I didn't buy it. From then on, I started paying closer attention. He was always texting, always checking his phone. And then I remembered something. Matt had changed his Instagram handle a few weeks prior. No big deal, right? People rebrand themselves all the time. But curiosity got the better of me, and I used an alt account to check his old profile. It had been turned private, but not deleted. A quick search revealed some very interesting followers, models, influencers, and one account in particular that had pictures of Matt in beachside selfies with a woman who looked nothing like my sister. The captions were vague but suggestive. My kind of forever was one. Another read, could stare into these eyes forever. They were dated a year ago, before the engagement, but still too close for comfort. I screenshotted everything. By now, the story I had been telling myself, that maybe Matt was just a little flaky, began to shift. I started to believe something worse, something deliberate, like he was playing my sister, manipulating her, and everyone around her was too obsessed with floral arrangements to notice. At the cake tasting, he made an offhand comment about how weddings are really for the bride anyway, and he just wanted to get through it. I watched my sister giggle like a schoolgirl and feed him a bite of red velvet. I wanted to scream. Instead, I smiled, because by now, I had started collecting more than just screenshots. I had started talking to people. One of the groomsmen, Daniel, was more than willing to dish after a couple of drinks. He told me Matt had a bit of a reputation back in college. Serial monogamist, he said, but not in a good way. Think, overlapper, one foot in the next bed before the sheets go cold. I asked if my sister knew. He shrugged. She probably thinks she'd change him. They always do. The worst part was when I confronted Allison, the bridesmaid he had been eyeing. She looked nervous, but eventually confirmed that Matt had texted her late one night after fitting. It was just a harmless message, she said, a compliment on her dress, then a question about whether she was seeing anyone. She had laughed it off, but now she looked scared. "Please don't tell her," she whispered. "It'll ruin everything." That's when I realized the wedding wasn't just a celebration. It was a facade, a fragile porcelain masquerade that could crack at any moment. Everyone was complicit. Everyone had decided to keep quiet, to keep the fantasy alive. And I was the only one standing outside the snow globe, watching it spin in glittering perfection, knowing there was a corpse under the tree. My sister, oblivious and euphoric, had started referring to herself as Mrs. Fairytale in texts and emails. She wrote long, dreamy Instagram captions about manifesting the life I deserve and aligning with the universe's blessings. It was all so curated, so nauseatingly sweet, that it gave me cavities. And the worst part? I still loved her. I didn't want to hurt her. But I also couldn't let her marry someone who would eventually destroy her. I started writing down everything, not just screenshots and notes, but a full-on timeline of events. I created a Google Drive folder, labeled discreetly, and included every piece of evidence I had. I shared it with one person, my best friend, who had no ties to the family and could be trusted to keep in the vault. "What's the plan?" she asked me. I didn't know. Not yet. I just knew I couldn't stay silent. Not anymore. And then came the incident that broke the last thread of hesitation. I saw Matt kissing someone who wasn't my sister. I was walking out of a bookstore when I saw him across the street, leaning against a car, sunglasses on. A woman walked up to him. Tall, red lipstick. Heels. She smiled. He smiled back. She leaned in. He kissed her. Not on the cheek. Not a goodbye. A real kiss. Intimate. Familiar. I pulled out my phone and caught the tail end of it in a shaky video. My hands were trembling so badly I could barely hold the camera. That night, I didn't sleep. I just stared at the ceiling, wondering if I had become the villain in my own story, or if I had been one all along. But the truth was too loud to ignore now. The wedding was 2 weeks away. The perfect day everyone had been dreaming about was being built on a landfill of lies, and I was the only one willing to take out the trash. I looked in the mirror and told myself the truth. I wasn't the black sheep. I was the wolf. And they had no idea what was coming. The irony of being a blood relative, but treated like a seat filler, really hit me the morning I found out my name had been left off the official RSVP list. Again, yes, after the save-the-date drama and being barely acknowledged at the planning events, I received a group email from the wedding coordinator confirming final head counts for the rehearsal dinner and ceremony. I wasn't on it. Not my name, not even a typo resembling it. I checked 3 times. When I texted my sister about it, she left me on read for 4 hours before replying with, "Oops, clerical error. Don't worry, you're still welcome," smiling face with hearts. That emoji felt like a slap. I was still welcome, like a stray cat they decided to feed. The thing was, by that point, the wedding wasn't just a painful symbol of exclusion. It had become a battleground. I had a folder stuffed with damning evidence against Matt. The video of him kissing another woman, screenshots of his messages to Allison, and a few other randoms, shady old Instagram posts. The phone call I recorded where he clearly argued with someone about keeping it quiet until wedding's over, and even a dumb note he jotted on a Post-it that I found while helping unload centerpieces. It read, "After the dust settles Tuesday, lawyer," like a date scribble, and the word lawyer circled. That same day, my mom had asked me to help alphabetize escort cards, and Matt's stuff was in a jumbled pile on the same table. He clearly didn't realize his tiny scrawl could be the final nail in his coffin. I started putting the puzzle together in my head. Was he planning to divorce her immediately after the wedding? Was this some kind of scam? Was it all about appearances, the estate, or money? I didn't even know if there was a prenup. I could have asked, but I didn't want to tip anyone off yet. No, I needed the timing to be surgical. I wanted the truth to hit at just the right moment, when the masks were glued to their faces and couldn't be ripped off without tearing skin. Around this time, my relationship with the rest of the family had grown even icier. My father, who was normally aloof but at least polite, barely acknowledged me anymore. He'd say things like, "Try not to start anything this weekend," as though I was a storm cloud scheduled to ruin their forecast. My mother had turned into a Weddingzilla hybrid creature who cried when the lilies were one shade too pale and shouted at the planner for placing the dessert table too close to the exit. And my sister, well, she floated through it all like some Disney Channel princess on a mission to erase me from every memory she could control. Every picture we took, I was cropped out. Every conversation I joined, she pivoted away. I wasn't part of her wedding story. I was the footnote she prayed would vanish. So I started documenting everything. Quietly, strategically. At the final dress fitting, I filmed Matt staring way too long at a teenage intern helping with the alterations. At the hotel meet and greet the night before the wedding, I snapped a photo of him sneaking out the back exit with his phone glued to his face and a smug look on his lips. And then the tipping point. It came 2 days before the wedding, during the rehearsal at the Vineyard Estate. The venue was beautiful, no doubt. Rolling hills, marble fountains, and a floral arch that looked like it had been engineered by NASA for maximum photogenic impact. Guests were laughing. Wine was flowing, and my sister was glowing like she was lit from within. But beneath that glowing surface, cracks were forming. I noticed the bridesmaids whispering, texting more than usual. A few looked uncomfortable when Matt passed by. I cornered one of them. Her name was Bianca, on the balcony during golden hour, offering her a glass of wine and a gentle question. "Is everything okay?" She hesitated for 5 long seconds, then nodded. "It's just wedding stress," she said, but her tone was robotic. I pressed gently. She cracked. "He texted me once." Like, flirted. It was weird. I never responded, but I felt gross. My stomach twisted when I asked 3 weeks ago. That was after the engagement photos had already gone viral on social. He'd still been shopping around. That night, I stared at my folder of evidence and made a decision. I was going to crash the wedding, even if they didn't want me there. Not with a scene, not with screaming or a drunken toast, but with a clean, cold cut of truth. I printed out the screenshots and tucked them into a plain manila envelope. No drama. No digital screens they could claim were doctored. Just ink and truth. But what really pushed me over the edge wasn't the cheating, the exclusion, or the gaslighting. It was the letter. Yes, a letter. One I found completely by accident. I was staying at the family guest house for the weekend of the wedding, because apparently that was the only safe place to put me, and I needed a charger. I borrowed one from the downstairs kitchen drawer, the one that held all the junk, twist ties, old receipts, random screws. Inside was a folded note with my name written in pencil on the back. I opened it. It was from my sister, undated, but recent. In it, she wrote, I know you think I don't love you, but you've always been my biggest fear, because you see things I want to hide. I'm sorry if I ever made you feel invisible, but sometimes I needed you to be, because your truth makes my fairy tale fall apart. I stared at those words for what felt like an hour. My hands shook. It was like she had confessed without confessing, like some twisted form of emotional blackmail, disguised as guilt. I kept the letter, added it to the folder. Now I had my closing statement. The night before the wedding, as guests gathered for the rehearsal dinner, I sat alone in the vineyard garden under a canopy of twinkling lights, the distant sound of laughter echoing from the tent. I thought about the girl I used to be, the sister who tried to play nice, to shrink, to appease. That girl was gone, replaced by someone sharper, colder, braver. I wasn't just going to expose Matt. I was going to reveal the entire ecosystem of denial that allowed.